Alright, good morning. So if you follow me on any of my other social media platforms, you probably already know that I decided with some issues going on at work, I'm just gonna start barbecuing as much as I possibly can. So with that being said, I sent a message out to all of my friends and they hit me back with great replies. They're ready to bring some meat on over to me. What I didn't expect was the first thing they brought me over to be a brisket. I have never actually made a brisket, although I understand the theory of it. I know kind of what goes into it. So follow me along with this great journey of making my first brisket. It's also raining out, which is why I have the tent up. Normally I only have that for the heat. So this will be a real fun one, I think. So let's get into the brisket. Oh my, this brisket cook did not go as I planned at all, honestly. My original thoughts for this video was it was going to be a 3-part video if I had just knocked it out of the park in my first shot, and it just didn't end up happening at all. So you're getting a pretty shortened version of my brisket cook because I don't think this is one that you should be learning from, but as more of a video that we both can be learning from, where I make a few mistakes and you learn from those mistakes that I made. Starting with the trim, I thought I started off pretty strong, but there just got to a point where I was just over trimming it, and I think that's really where I went wrong overall. I followed Aaron Franklin's brisket model pretty much to a T. Other than the fact that it was cold and raining, and the wood that I bought just didn't want to work with me at all. For whatever reason, I every time I would put a piece in, it just wouldn't catch, and it just made my life a nightmare, basically. Right about here is where I should have stopped trimming, but I just decided to keep going. You'll see me jump around a lot here, but it just didn't turn out that great. My friends, though, being the great people they are, were not sad with it at all. I just wish this hadn't been the first cook that I made for them. But still, they really enjoyed it, even though I think the flat was a little bit too dry for my personal taste. Overall, I think everything did turn out good enough, but I definitely will be doing another one to step up my game a little bit more. As far as the cooking went, I said I followed Aaron Franklin's model, which was 250 for the first 3-ish hours, and then you bump it up to 265 and work with it for the next so many hours until you're ready to wrap. And I tried to do that the best I could. Like I said, with the wood, it just didn't work. I also spritzed after the first hour, every hour, to ensure that there were no little pieces that were getting a little bit too burnt. And the wrapping, oh man, this was not fun. It was really windy when this started happening. The rain had died down enough, but I'd never really wrapped anything in butcher paper before. So as you'll see, I struggle to keep things as tight as possible, which could have been another issue that I had. Towards the end of this cook, though, I was so done that I just ended up throwing it in the oven, which is something you can do, especially after you wrap, because it's not going to take on any more smoke. It's more about the heat, just keeping it consistent and steady. So I ended up doing that so I could shower and be ready to drop the food off when it was time, so I don't smell like a giant smokestack. But here's a nice wrapped brisket. It should have been tighter, but again, something I know now for the next time. The one thing I do think I went really well with was the slicing. I think I turned that really, really good for the first time at least. As I said, the flat was pretty dry, and my original plan was to just slice the flat and then make the point all burnt ends, but once I figured out that the flat was so dry, I ended up splitting the point in half and then making half slices and then half burnt ends, which you saw in the beginning of the video. And like I said, my friends were really nice about it. They really enjoyed it, and I think it was mostly because of the burnt ends, because you can't really go wrong with some meat candy, right? And I mean, the look really is good, but it's just, it was a little dry. I wish it would look just a little bit more moist. So right here, I'm slicing out a big chunk of fat that I only kept on the trim because I knew that it would help with the structure while it cooked. I did end up giving it to them. I don't know what they did with it, but normally when I was watching Aaron Franklin's videos, he just throws it away. And man, doesn't that point look so good? Another thing I did really well. At least in my opinion. So this little piece that I'm cutting off right here, that was the one piece I did get to taste. And man, that was really good actually. All right, so let's start on our burnt ends. I first started by cubing them up basically, or cutting thicker slices and then cubing it. And I made sort of a modified Kansas City style burnt ends where I added my own personal barbecue sauce, which you'll see here in a few minutes, and then I added some of our house rub and then a little bit of brown sugar. A lot of people like to use honey with it as well, and I personally don't see why, so I didn't use it. It's just my personal taste. And again, those turned out even better than I could have expected. Might be my favorite type of burnt ends so far. I ended up throwing these back in the oven for about an hour and a half, let the sauce kind of thicken up, and then ended up dropping them off. Like I said, they really enjoyed it. And I hope you stick around for our next Barbecue with Friends episode, because this will be a more recurring segment, I believe. Anyways, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this content, and let me know what you think I should do next in terms of stepping up my brisket game. And here we are. Those look so delicious, and they really were so delicious.